Hi guys, my name is Christine, and today I'm talking about removing negativity from your mind and becoming unstoppable. Okay, so obviously, when you have a negative mindset or you've got things like anxiety and things, sometimes a lot of these issues can stop you from achieving your dreams. So what are the things that you can do besides obviously seeking medical help? Because obviously if you've got chronic negative thinking, if you've got really bad anxiety, obviously the first port of call is to go to your doctor and speak to them about it and see what avenues that you can go down to help with this. Because obviously there can be times when negativity can actually be a medical condition. So my first port of call for you to understand is that if you need help, then please do go and seek it. You may even find the benefit of having a therapist or a counselor, someone that you can go through these issues with. Now, obviously not all the time. Therapy doesn't always work all the time. So I think sometimes it depends on the therapist and the relationship that you have with the therapist. So if you are going to seek counseling or a therapist, then please, don't be afraid to shop around, right? And find someone who you can actually really gel with, who like really gets you and totally understands you. It's really important that you have a good relationship with your therapist. Of course, it's a professional relationship, but it's good that you can have a good connection with them, and they get you, right? Because sometimes you can meet a therapist or a counselor and you're talking to them. It's almost like there's just like a little bit of you're not connecting, right? And when that kind of thing happens, it's a good idea to probably start seeking a new therapist. But before you go into any of these tips, please make sure that you have, gone down the avenue of seeking some kind of medical help from a medical professional or a counselor or therapist, because that is really important, especially if you're always sad, if you're always anxious and things like that. Right? Even if it's not even just all the time, it could even be that it's just over 50% of the time, because over 50% of the time is a lot of the time, okay? Right. So one of the things that I've personally seen help me, okay, and this was even when I when I was actually taking medication for depression. So something that really helped me during those times was being of service to other people and putting myself essentially out of the equation and thinking about my own life and thinking about my own problems, and instead of doing that, thinking of other people's problems and how I can help with their problems and how I can help them solve those things, right? You can, it's often as well, like I'm sure you've seen it in your life where you're giving advice to someone and it's almost like, oh my god, I wish I could take this advice myself. Right? But there's something about giving advice or just helping other people in some way that is really, really transformative. And what it does is it takes the spotlight off of you and it puts it on them. So I have a dating and relationship channel, and one of my pieces of advice when it comes to dating is if you're self-conscious when you go out on a date and if you're worried about what they're thinking about you, especially if you really like them, one of the best things that you can do is to stop being so internal and worrying about, oh my god, am I coming across okay? What I say just then look attractive or not? Do I even look attractive right now? Instead of focusing on that, what you do is you focus on, why am I here? I'm here to get to know this person. I've only been on one date with this person. I don't know who they are, and I'm already making their opinion of me so important. So what I really want to do here is I'm here to try and figure out who this person is, to see if we're a good match, right? And I want to find out as much as I can about this possible. I want to find out as much as I can about this person as possible, so that I can get a good view as to whether or not this is the right person for me and I should continue dating them. So I need to stop thinking so much about myself here and focus on them so I can figure out if this is right for me. Okay? But sometimes we can be so desperate and we're trying to find a relationship and dating and all that kind of stuff that we get so consumed with like, oh my god, I've got to try and impress them, I've got to try and say all the right things. But ultimately what actually really works is when you relax and you start focusing on the other person and get really interested in them and really interested in what they have to say and asking them tons of questions about themselves. And what's really cool about that is that you don't actually have to do that much then, because all you have to do is just keep on asking them questions, right? And you can just sort of sit back and just let them talk, and you listen obviously to their answers, to try and find out if that's the right kind of person for you. Okay, and that's the same great technique that you can use when you're trying to make a new friend. When you go into a job situation as well. Like if you've got like anxiety about a job interview or something, or a new venture that you're doing, if you've got negative feeling around that, instead of focusing so much on like, oh my God, am I competent enough? Am I going to do this right? What are the other people around me going to think of me? Instead, think, what is this all about? What do I need to do? What is the job at hand that I actually need to perform? What do my bosses or my supervisors expect from me? What is the expectations of the job? And maybe I should just focus on that. Okay, because there's billions of people in customer service, right? So with that being said, then obviously customer service is extremely important. So what you've got to think of is not so much about the anxiety of picking up the phone, because you may have that, and I certainly have had that in my life. What you've got to think of is, what are the needs of the other person on the other end of the phone? Right? What do they want? And it could be that they're complaining, when in that case they probably want some kind of compensation or some kind of coupon, right, for their complaint or something like that. Or it could be that they're just trying to get some advice from you, or what they should do, or maybe they're just asking a question. So you've got to really think about what I can do for others. Okay, and again, this is a great way to use this in your other life, in your personal life as well. It doesn't have to be career. If you've got anxiety, in other ways as well, or you've got negative emotion. Yeah. So, it's just about helping your community or your family or your friends and helping them with their issues. And if you don't have that many people around you, then find a way that you can volunteer. Volunteer at a soup kitchen or something like that and help the homeless. Or maybe you go and working like a pet, like an animal shelter or something like that, and help the animals. So you're focusing on them and not so much yourself. Okay, and that can really be curative, that can really be transformative, and it can help those negative thoughts and those negative emotions, because if you're always in the service of others and you're no longer thinking about yourself and woe is me and my bad past and all that, then, it takes the negative emotion away. So one of the people that has greatly helped me over the years with my negative thoughts, because I would say at one stage in my life, especially in my early 20s, when my life really started to transform, but before then, I came across the work of a man called Dr. Wayne Dyer. And I highly recommend that you go and check out there's loads of his lectures here for free on YouTube that you can go and watch. A lot of his PBS specials. There's just so much content of Dr. Wayne Dyer out there. And what I've discovered when I was watching him is that he was really good at reframing things, and so that you would think more positively, right? And it was transformative for me, right? And his words were so calming, and it just made me see things in a different light. And it almost transmuted my negative thoughts into positive ones, and realizing I could actually do that. Right? So one of the thought processes that I would, let's say, go through. Okay, so I had trouble when I was, in my early, in my teenage years and in my early 20s with dating and finding a relationship. I had lots of struggles with that. It seemed like all the people that I was attracted to wasn't attracted to me, all this kind of stuff. Big issues around that area, okay? And that was one of the reasons why I have a dating and relationship channel, which is because I coach people on those things, and I became so good at understanding relationships and dating that I'm now able to give people advice on those topics, okay? But what essentially happened was I was going through a lot of trouble at that time, and one of my negative thoughts was, okay, the reason why I can't find a date is because I'm ugly. Right, that was my main thought. Right, so when I started listening to Dr. Wayne Dyer, of course, this is just one example. I had many other negative thoughts too. When I started listening to him, what I realized is that I can actually transmute those negative thoughts. Like I could question them, right? And when you're able to question these negative thoughts, and you're able to just take a minute and to say, okay, so what's actually going on here? Is it really true that the reason no one likes me right now is because I'm ugly? Now, it could very much be true for some people that I dated, that they didn't like me because they didn't like the way I looked. Fine. But also, maybe it was just that we were just incompatible, or maybe it was that they had other things going on in their life, such as they had exes that were still in the picture, or perhaps they shouldn't really have been dating at all because they were interested in someone else more. Right, and maybe that person came back into their lives, right? It could be that person moved away, there's lots of different things as to why I was not being very successful, right? And one of the big ones that really helped me through that process was the thought, obviously, it's just not meant to be, right? If things were meant to be going well with this person I've dated or with that person I've dated, if things were meant to be progressing, they would be. And I just haven't found my person. And that was exactly what happened because, I did eventually find the person I was going to marry, currently pregnant right now. So, it all worked out, right? Okay? And sometimes that's a great thing to say to yourself. It will all work out. So another thing that can really help, that can really benefit you, is if you write down your troubles, like write down the things in the past that have hurt you, the people that have hurt you, the things that may have caused this negativity, this anxiety, whatever it may be that you're suffering with to begin with. And what you want to do is when you write these things down, when you write down your past like this, it's a good idea not to, write it down as if someone's going to read it. You want to write down a very true account that is just for you, right? You have to say precisely what happened. Right, exactly what happened. And you want to write down the full thing, right, the whole event, right? So if you tend to think back on past events that have hurt you, that have troubled you, that make you feel bad, that make you feel terrible, that bring on your anxiety or your negative emotion, those are reoccurring memories. Those are the ones that you need to write down. Okay, those are the ones that obviously have affected you. So it's important that you write them down very concisely, the full thing, don't leave anything out. And if you're worried that someone's going to find it, then rip it up, flush it down the toilet, burn it. It may be something that you write on like a Word document, on your notes, on your phone, and then after you've wrote it down, just delete it. You don't have to keep it around if you're worried about other people reading it, especially if you've done things in your past that you're ashamed of, which we all have done. We all made silly mistakes when we were younger. Okay, and sometimes it's those things that really bring on the anxiety. Like I remember I was at my friend's party when I was 18 and I got really, really drunk, right? And I got embarrassingly drunk, right? And that was a memory that used to really bother me, but it no longer does because I went through this writing process of writing everything down, right? But the thing that wasn't necessarily what other people were doing at that place that was affecting me. It was looking back on it with embarrassment that was affecting me. Right? Because I'd done something silly when I was 18, which we've all done. 18 is it's one of those ages. It's just one of those ages. But anyway, so that's my advice for you. So thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to get in touch with me personally and you'd like coaching with me, then please go to www.christineloveridge.com and I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.